start to look at Hendon Hooker rather than could he fall? If he doesn't get picked by the Raiders at 7, he'll fall out of the top 10. Appreciate all you guys joining us. And speaking of the top 10, here's a list of the top 10 picks. Part of the reason I say you won't see him, if he doesn't get drafted by the Raiders at number 7, it gets dicey. Obviously at 8, could the Falcons draft CJ Stroud at 8? They could. I just don't think they will. I think they do want to use that pick for other purposes. The Bears won't draft him. The Eagles won't draft him. It's all about the Tennessee Titans. They're at 11. Click759 says CJ Stroud's going number 1. I feel very confident at this point that absolutely will not happen. Bryce Young's going to be the pick. And I say that because Vegas has put the odds at such where there's no way a place that builds casino on winning is going to afford a loss in letting CJ Stroud go number 1. So very confident in the fact that we will see Bryce Young go number 1 overall to the Panthers, which is interesting because I have my questions about CJ Stroud. I do worry about his height and his size, but apparently the Panthers feel differently. Curious to know what Frank Reich's going to be able to do with him. It's a really interesting team that they're building. I love what they have on defense. I hate what they have on offense. I guess that's why Frank Reich was brought in. Don't you think that Bijan Robinson could actually make it to the Cowboys at 26? Absolutely. I think he will probably be drafted before then. My suspicion is that Bijan Robinson will be someone that either a team trades up to get or we will be surprised. Like, for example, what if the Chargers draft Bijan Robinson and then trade Austin Eckler? There's a rumor out there that could happen tonight. So for a number of reasons, yes, I think the Cowboys could be very fortunate and have Bijan Robinson fall into their lap. But that said, they may benefit from not having that happen. I think the Cowboys would be better served by actually getting a defensive back or getting additional defensive help in the first round and then getting a Jahmyr Gibbs in the second round or finding other running back talent later in the draft. So I know there are a lot of Cowboy fans who are also Longhorn fans. They would love to see Bijan Robinson become a Cowboy. I actually think that's kind of that's the old Cowboys, a sexy pick that really isn't the smartest move for building a successful team, a successful roster. I think the Cowboys will be much better served by adding to that defense, especially that defensive secondary. I know they got Gilmore, I know they got Diggs, but if they add like a Banks out of Maryland, if they add Forbes out of Mississippi State, they could do really well to add another cornerback, get deep at that cornerback position. You're going to need to cover. This is an NFL that's about passing. You're going to need coverage help. If Bijan Robinson is there for the Cowboys and there's no one else on the board that is as talented, I would agree. But again, I think Bijan Robinson's going to go closer to 20 than he is to 26. Let us know who you guys think your team's going to pick tonight. Curious to know what you guys have as your predictions. Cowboy fans, do you want Bijan Robinson? Raider fans, do you want a quarterback to back up Jimmy G? Do you want to go find somebody else? If you're an Eagles fan, you have 2 picks tonight. How do you want to use them? Traditionally, Howie Roseman has kind of built in the trenches. How's he going to do this tonight? New England Patriots, you got so many needs, and you are now the 4th team in that division. What are the Patriots going to do at 14? The Green Bay Packers, a lot of talk about a wide receiver or a tight end going to them at 13. Obviously, they moved up from 15 to 13 in the trade with Aaron Rodgers. So, guys, if you have questions, we're here for answers. Also, would love to know your picks for tonight. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us on TikTok, Fumble Sports. We're going to be live for the entire NFL draft. First round tonight, we're going to be live for all of it. Okay, Biden says, I want the Cowboys to trade up and draft Joey Porter. First of all, I love where your head's at, Don 5282. I think you have the right idea. No, I agree with you. I don't think that's ultimately going to happen because I think the Cowboys aren't going to trade up. I think they want to keep their draft capital. But I'm with you. I love Joey Porter Jr. Big, physical, obviously has the NFL DNA in him. But I love Joey Porter Jr. He could fall tonight. He is someone who you watch because of the movement of wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, and quarterbacks. Joey Porter Jr., who really should be going around 14, 15, 16, he could get all of a sudden into the early 20s, and that could be an opportunity where if the Cowboys could get him at, say, 22, maybe want to move up to around that range. So Would love to see Joey Porter Jr. land in the right spot because he's incredibly talented. Love what he could bring to a pro defense. Make sure you guys are following us, Butt Fumble Sports. We're going to be live for the entire first round tonight, reacting to everything going on around the first round. Oh. Going to raise my light a little bit because it's a little low for me. I don't like when you guys can see the circle in my glasses, so. Let's see if this is better. Oh, that's the one I want. Okay, great. A little bit better. Okay, so what do you guys think? We're going through the NFL draft predictions right now. We were looking at some of the prop bets a moment ago. If you guys want to check those out, I'm looking at Bovada. It's the sports book that I like to use. We were looking at the third overall pick a moment ago. Third overall pick, CJ Stroud right now is the heavy favorite with Will Anderson second. I don't think Will Anderson's ultimately going to go there. We were mentioning it a moment ago, the Tennessee Titans rumored to be trading up to that number 3 spot would be really interesting. Jose, I like where your head's at. I absolutely could see Weatherspoon going to the Raiders. I think they could use, boy, could they use defensive help. Like the Raiders, such a bad defense. They could definitely use some help in the secondary. They could use another pass rusher as well. Looking at the odds for the number 4 pick. What do you guys think? Who do you think is going to go number 4? Is there any good bets out there? Keep your eye on Tyree Wilson. I don't think number 4, but keep your eye on Tyree Wilson as potentially being the first defensive player off the board. Everyone loved Will Anderson. Obviously, Jalen Carter had an outstanding year for Georgia. But Tyree Wilson really won the offseason, won the combine. I'd be curious to know if someone wants to take him over Will Anderson. I wouldn't. I'd take Will Anderson by far. I think the best defensive player in the draft. But it's going to be interesting. Tyree Wilson, he's going to go sooner than people think, or at least originally thought. Make sure you guys are hitting that follow button, Butt Fumble Sports. We're going to be live for the entire first round of the draft. Here you see the number 5 overall pick. This is the Seahawks. Jalen Carter is the favorite here. But keep your eye. Again, where's Tyree Wilson on this one? I guess they're not even giving odds for Tyree Wilson here. That's how much I think he's going to go to the Seahawks. Okay, so you like Weatherspoon going to the Raiders. I think that would be the smart move. I don't think the Raiders are necessarily going to be that smart. If they were being the smartest possible they could be, it would be Paris Johnson Jr. Because I think the Raiders would benefit from getting a great offensive lineman, protecting Jimmy G, building an offensive line that's going to allow Josh McDaniels to run the kind of offense he wants. I know they need to address defense, but Jimmy G is made of glass. So you just invested a lot of money in him. You're going to need him to compete. So for so many reasons, I think it's really important that they not only address the defense in the draft, but in the first round, I think it's the offensive line. Well, yeah, but Alex Leatherwood was a reach. Alex Leatherwood, to me, was a guy who should have been a guard, was shorter armed, wasn't... How do I put this? Paris Johnson Jr. is a pure tackle. You could put him at right tackle. You could put him at left tackle. He's a big human being. He played against good competition. He is highly regarded. Alex Leatherwood was just a reach, an absolute reach. Make sure you guys are following us, Butt Fumble Sports, on TikTok. Also, check out our newsletter and our website. Hit the link in our bio, buttfumblesports.com. You can check out all of our content and make sure you sign up for that free newsletter. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're with us as we go live to react to the entire first round of the NFL draft. I'm going to have my ESPN broadcast on, so if you guys want to watch along with me, I'm all about it. Ricky2115, corner no doubt. I hope for their sake it is a corner or an offensive lineman. I'd be curious. Okay, you can already tell Bovada is starting to take some of these bets off the board. They are worried that they're going to be on the wrong end of a bet. Be curious to know how the trade movement with the Tennessee Titans ultimately impacts things. By the way, not saying I know anything, but who's the betting favorite for the Raiders right now? Paris Johnson Jr. Not saying that's where he's gonna go. You guys asked me who do I think the Raiders should pick? Paris Johnson Jr. And wouldn't you know, Vegas has him as the betting favorite for the Raiders. I think that would be the best pick for him. I think it makes the most sense. Will it ultimately happen? Remains to be seen. Mark Davis, are we going to get a normal standardized draft out of him, or is he going to act like his father and go chase some of the speedsters, some of the eye-popping players that come out of the combine? If the Raiders are going to be successful, they have to project. Either they need to protect Jimmy Garoppolo, or they need to get a replacement, a substitute who's ready to step in when Jimmy G gets hurt. If it's Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, fine. But to me, go draft Paris Johnson Jr., go protect Jimmy Garoppolo. I call him Jimmy Glass because he always gets hurt. If he is going to succeed, especially in AFC West, that you know is going to require 10, 11 wins in order to be competitive, you're going to need to protect him year round. Ricky 2115, I took Bengals first pick running back at plus 750. Oof. I understand why. First of all, I understand why you did it because I love the plus 750. The only reason I'm not crazy about it right now is because I feel like if I were the Bengals, I would definitely want to go after the tight end position. Hayden Hurst is gone. I feel like you could get Michael Mayer there. You could get Dalton Kincaid. I'd like to see them expand that middle of the field attack. I just don't feel like you want to get a running back this early, especially if it's Gibbs. If Gibbs is coming off the board that early in the first round, it means there's good other talent that's available. So for me, I wouldn't do it. Jose, I get it. If Jalen Carter is available at 7, I do think the Raiders should absolutely take him. I just don't think he's going to be there. But can you imagine pairing Max Crosby with Jalen Carter? Okay, here's a quick question. Who do we like more? Jalen Carter paired with Aiden Hutchinson of the Lions or Max Crosby of the Raiders? Makes for a really interesting duo. The question is which team will ultimately draft him. Big Thursday fan, under 1.5 running backs in the first round is free money. I think so too, because I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs will, unless it is a very late pick like the Chiefs or the Chiefs trade out and someone jumps up to get Jahmyr Gibbs. But I feel like Bijan Robinson is the only running back really worthy of a selection in this first round. If Jahmyr Gibbs gets taken, again, it just means to me that a really good defensive talent will have fallen. I actually can zoom out a little bit for you guys. Is that better? Raiders fans obviously giving Max Crosby some love. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us on TikTok, Fumble Sports. Make sure you're following us. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate you guys being a part of this pregame show as we get ready for the live. Still figuring out some of our quirks here. Where is that? I'm trying to get the alerts. Where is the alerts? Because I can't see how many likes we have. Who do the Bears trade? Who do the Bears take at 9? To me, one of the most obvious picks of this draft is Skoronski to the Bears. I think he would be a perfect fit for them. He went to Northwestern. He's not a real defensive or offensive tackle, rather. His arms are a bit too short. He would make an outstanding guard. They could use offensive line help to protect Justin Fields. If I'm the Bears, I don't trade back. I want to get the offensive lineman that I want. If Paris Johnson Jr. is there, I would select him. But if he's not, Skoronski to the Bears makes a lot of sense to me. Let's take a look at what the odds are for that number 9 pick. By the way, Bijan Robinson is the betting favorite at number 8. Just keep an eye on that. Bijan Robinson is number 8. But at number 9, you can see it's the Bears and the offensive linemen are the favorites. I love Darnell Wright. I think Darnell Wright is an absolute stud. He actually could be the best offensive lineman in this draft. He reminds me a lot of Trent Brown, just a massive human being who can throw other massive human beings around. But I get the sense that the Bears, I feel like they're going to go with Skoronski. He's got NFL history. His grandfather was in the NFL, so for a number of reasons, I like what he can offer and the size he can bring. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you're following us. Fumble Sports will be live for the entire first round of the draft. Who do you guys want to see your team select? There are a lot of rumors out there right now. The big one is that the Arizona Cardinals will be trading out of the number 3 overall pick and sending DeAndre Hopkins to the Tennessee Titans. They will be acquiring the 11th overall pick. This isn't confirmed. It is a rumor that has been out there for the last hour or so, is that the Tennessee Titans are going to trade up to try to get the number 3 overall pick. By the way, it is official in every way except on the screen, which is the Panthers are letting it known, it's being leaked, that they are absolutely going to select Bryce Young. And there's another rumor that they might actually trade back into the first round to go get a pass rusher. So, not only are the Panthers committed to Bryce Young as the first overall pick, but that said, they are interested in moving back into the first round to go get another defensive talent. Lamar Jackson got away with robbery. I'm a Rams fan. I just want this year to be over. Kingpin 24832. This is what happens. You win a Super Bowl and you got to pay the cost. If you didn't build it the right way, the Rams really didn't build their Super Bowl team through the draft. They acquired a lot of talent. It was kind of a fantasy team. That's what you get. You get the fallout of it. If you're a New England Patriots fan, you're on the downside. You had a dynasty. Now you're going to go through the valley and go through the lean times. If you're a Green Bay Packers fan, you've had 2 Super Bowl Hall of Fame quarterbacks over the last few decades. Now you've got Jordan Love. So there are a lot of franchises that are hopeful. There are a lot of franchises that are in a much darker place. And what's interesting about the draft is it's supposed to be all optimism, all hope for all teams. That's not the case. There are some teams that tonight is kind of a reminder of how far they really are from competing and contending with the rest of the league. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that follow button, Fumble Sports. We're going to be live for the entire first round of the NFL draft tonight. I've got ESPN on in front of me, so I'm going to be watching, and we're going to have it on in the background. I will be reacting live to every single pick, so make sure you guys follow and join us. Going to have a lot of fun tonight going through what is Christmas for the NFL. We get to open up our presents, see where all of these talented young players are going to go. Obviously, it's fun for fans, also fun for fantasy fans. I've definitely got my eye on where is Bijan Robinson going to go? Where are some of these wide receivers going to go? Are there fantasy opportunities? I love getting young players in fantasy, getting rookies, because a lot of my friends, they don't really know who the good rookies are. So you get a Chris Olave on the Saints. Turns out he's a stud. You stash him away in the draft. This is one of the reasons I love the NFL draft. It's not just about the teams. It's also about me and my fantasy options. I don't think Stafford's going to be traded tonight. I think the Rams have committed to him because the Rams aren't a wheeling and dealing franchise when it comes to emotions. I think they are when it comes to opportunities, but I think the relationship that Stafford has with Sean McVay, I don't think Sean McVay would do him dirty like that. I think Matt Stafford's going to be the starting quarterback of the Rams to start next season. Big Thursday fan says he's a Panthers fan. He's done enough mocks now, ready to realize that, yeah, there are a lot of really good edge rushers, and to your point, funny enough, because there's going to be a run on quarterbacks, tight ends, offensive linemen, there could be some really good defensive pass rushers that are available early in that second round. I think the Panthers are really smart to identify that as both a need and something that they can acquire. I know that Burns is one of the best defensive edge rushers. I'm crazy about him, but there's a lot the Panthers could do to get better. Who do I think is the best fantasy tight end wise, Mayer or Kincaid? It really depends on where they go. This is a perfect example. If Mayer goes to the Cowboys and Kincaid goes to the Packers, I'm going to say Mayer. I'd rather have Mayer with Dak Prescott in that explosive offense. But if Kincaid goes to, let's say, the Bengals and Mayer goes to the Cowboys, I'll say Kincaid, because Kincaid paired with Joe Burrow would be an absolute match made in heaven. So for me, I love the 2 tight ends. I think you're really smart, by the way. When it comes to fantasy, look at the tight ends that come out of this draft. Darnell Washington, Mayer, Kincaid, all 3 of those guys you should consider drafting in your fantasy draft next year. I do an auction draft. Those guys are going to be really inexpensive. I can get them later in my fantasy draft. Love what they can do from a tight end position. They're going to be utilized. So love where your head's at, user 7168. Make sure you guys are following us. Hit that follow button. And of course, there's also a link in our bio. Hit the link, takes you right to our website, We're continuing to throw up some of the odds behind me or up here so you can see what the odds are. I'm using Bovada's betting odds, but we can start to see who some of the favorites are for some of these picks. Again, looking at the top 10, you see the Panthers are the number one pick, obviously. It has now been kind of leaked. Bryce Young will be the first overall pick in this draft, so there's no mystery about it. But number 2, the Houston Texans, there are still a lot of mystery about that one, so curious to see where it happens, where they go with the pick. Kincaid to the Chargers is a pick I'd really like to see for their offense. I completely agree with you. If Kincaid were to go to a Joe Burrow or a Justin Herbert, he could be a stud. He has a lot of Travis Kelce-like qualities in that he's not a very crisp route runner. It's not very exact, but he has a feel for how to find places in a zone. He can make a catch and run with the ball. I love what he could offer in that offense. I am curious to know, one, if the Chargers want to find a replacement for Austin Eckler and then try and trade him. Bijan Robinson obviously would be a great player to pick up at that spot. Or do they look to defense? I think the Chargers could absolutely continue to get better on defense. You saw what the Jacksonville Jaguars did to them in that playoff game. They need to get better on defense, a lot of defensive talent. So I know Charger fans would like to see another weapon for Justin Herbert. Doesn't actually make a lot of sense to me. I think this is a much better defensive draft than it is an offensive draft. And for that reason, teams that need to reach that next level, go get the best player available. It's often going to be on defense. Felt like the dumbest team going into the draft. Then Lamar Jackson got overpaid. All marketing, not worth it. I don't know, Kingpin, if you saw my rant video. I put out a reaction video to Lamar Jackson getting that contract, and I have been skewered for it. People on Twitter hated my reaction to that contract. But I came out and I said, I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to win a Super Bowl for the Ravens. I don't think he can stay healthy through what is now an 18-week regular season combined with the playoffs. I just don't see Lamar Jackson's body holding up. I think he's immensely talented. It has nothing to do with him as a quarterback or race or his overall ability. It has to do with his availability. So I put out that rant video and Twitter hated it. They said I was hating on him and that I wasn't giving him his flowers. I think Lamar Jackson is talented, but I think this is a great PR move. I think it's a great business move for the Baltimore Ravens. But do I think the Ravens got any closer to a Super Bowl by signing Lamar Jackson today? If they did, it's by inches, not by feet, yards, or miles. So for me, good move by them because they need a quarterback, but this isn't really changing the dynamic in the AFC by signing him to a 5-year deal. By the way, I agree with you. I don't think he's top 10. You could make the argument he's not top 10 in the AFC right now. How crazy is that? I mean, he is, but we could go through it. Trevor Lawrence, I would take Trevor Lawrence. Joe Burrow, I'd take Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes. I'd take Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson. Those are 4 right there, and I haven't even broken a sweat. I think Lamar Jackson is incredibly talented. The thing I want to see from the Ravens, get him some weapons. If this rumor is true that DeAndre Hopkins is going to go to the Titans tonight, this would be a massive miss by the Ravens. They need to go add talent. I would be okay if they went and got Zay Flowers. I know they could use defensive help. I think Nolan Smith would be a perfect Raven. I've been saying that for weeks. But the Ravens need to get some more wide receivers. It can't just be Mark Andrews. And if they think Odell Beckham Jr. is just going to be a perfect addition, I don't think so. I think they're going to need to add additional weapons. So Lamar Jackson, great. You got your guy. You got your quarterback. Now go get him some pieces so he can go win. I'll break it down later, but the Ravens, how they handled that entire Lamar Jackson situation is really interesting to me because it set a precedent in how they put him out there and they said, hey, you can go see what your value is and we're going to act accordingly. But then by signing him to the contract today, they kind of did trade some things in. So I don't know if Adams, Kelce, and CMC make them a contender. Yeah, you're definitely a hater. You're just hating on them. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that follow button. But Fumble Sports is going to be live for the entire first round of the draft tonight. I have ESPN on right in front of me. So I'm going to be live and reacting to every single pick. We will also have the picks above me. So if you miss any of them, you'll know what's going down. But we've been looking at some of the draft odds, also talking about what's going on in the news. Interesting prop bet here. Player to be picked in the first round. Cansey, love this dude. Great defensive tackle. Absolutely believe he's going to be gone. Hendon Hooker, minus 275 is a pretty good bet. Osiris Torrance may be the best offensive guard in the draft out of Florida. Keep your eye on him. Darnell Washington. I love Darnell Washington. Unbelievable tight end. Massive size, good hands. Wasn't even the best tight end at Georgia, so he's a bit under the radar. He's going to be the third tight end drafted. He is a stud. Love Darnell Washington. Keep your eye on him for a late first round, early second round pick. Okay, so the thing about the CJ Stroud is there is a test, a cognitive test that all the quarterbacks take. I actually think it's all the players in the draft. I know that the quarterbacks take it, and it's obviously highly regarded. It is considered an IQ test, a reaction test, a recognition test. There is a part of it that is considered more like SAT questions or SSAT questions. And yes, according to rumors and leaked reports, CJ Stroud did like incredibly low. For example, the rumor is Bryce Young got a 98 on the test and CJ Stroud got something like an 18. So that's out there. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if what was leaked is true. There's got to be some truth to it because CJ Stroud comes out and says, I'm a football player. I don't take tests. He didn't come out and say that test score was wrong. So I'd be kind of curious. But that said, I also think that the test itself is kind of skewed towards nonsense at this point. If you're a talented football player, I actually don't know how important it is for you to be able to do multiplication. I just don't. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but not the biggest thing to me. Lamar Jackson didn't have like as low a score. He didn't have a very high score, but it wasn't nearly as low. CJ Stroud is in the all-time category of low scores on this test. Thoughts on Will Levis? He looks like a bodybuilder. His motion has to be limited. So what's interesting to me about Will Levis is he's got a really big arm. He's got a great physique. But he did play at Kentucky, and he didn't play well his senior year. And there are aspects of his game that make me wonder if he is a gym rat, if he is like a gym hero, but if he's not actually a great quarterback. I actually like CJ Stroud more as a passer of the football than Will Levis. Will Levis has a big arm. CJ Stroud is a more accurate quarterback. I think he's faced better competition. I know Will Levis is in the SEC, but he didn't play that well, and I think CJ Stroud played exceptionally well under against big opponents, big games. I like Stroud more than Will Levis. I think Will Levis to the Colts. I've been saying that for weeks, but there's a number of reasons for that. Look at the history of the Indianapolis Colts. There is something their quarterbacks have in common. If you take Jacoby Brissett out of that history, it's a lot of big, pocket-passing, white guy quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning. It is just what they do. It's what Jim Irsay likes. For a number of reasons, I think that Will Levis will be going to the Indianapolis Colts tonight. What do I think about the kid from Florida, Anthony Richardson? Anthony Richardson's really interesting to me because he didn't have a lot of time in college. If he had had more playing time, we could be talking about him on a Patrick Mahomes kind of scale, which is he's unbelievably athletic. He's got an unbelievable arm. He can run. He's fast. He's physical. He is, if you were to create a player in Madden and try to design him to be your perfect franchise quarterback, Anthony Richardson would actually have a lot of the qualities and traits that you want. The problem is he didn't have enough experience. If Anthony Richardson, one of the reasons I keep saying he would be a great pick for the Raiders at 7 is because then they could put him behind Jimmy Garoppolo. Let him get a year or two. I do think it's a bit like Patrick Mahomes behind Alex Smith. Give him a year. People forget Patrick Mahomes was immensely talented college, but we forget because of his success in the NFL. He was wild. Patrick Mahomes did throw interceptions in college. He could throw the ball deep, but he wasn't as precise. If you give Anthony Richardson the same kind of time to develop, learn a system, harness and develop his mechanics, I think Anthony Richardson could be a really good pick, but not right now. Not year 1, not year 2 maybe, but year 3 could be really worth it. Yes, you're making an investment in the long term, but I think he's ultimately going to be worth it because, again, if you give him playing time, he will continue to develop his craft and he could be unbelievably talented. And more importantly, if you're the Raiders, do you think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to beat Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes for the next decade? For the next 5 years? Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo can beat either one of them over the next 2 years? With that said, the Raiders need to build, knowing that they're going to be facing Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes at least 4 times a year for the next decade, and they need to have a quarterback who can go toe-to-toe with them. Jimmy Garoppolo simply isn't it. Yeah, a lot of Cam Newton-like qualities. Again, Cam Newton was more polished. He was just more developed. But Anthony Richardson has those same big body, big arm. He can run. He can be physical, tough to bring down qualities. Really like what I see from Richardson. I don't think he's garbage. I do think he needs development. I don't think you should start him week 1. But for the most part, I actually like the idea of giving some of these rookie quarterbacks time to figure out how to be a professional. I think throwing them into the deep end isn't always right. We've seen that with a lot of quarterbacks lately. I don't think Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield were necessarily ready day one, but they got thrown in there. I think sometimes it's good to give these guys a little bit of time. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us. Hit that follow button. We are gonna be live for the entire first round of the NFL draft tonight. Looking at some of these draft betting odds behind me, or above me rather. Here are some in the top 5 pick. Love Tyree Wilson here, minus 230. Love that pick. Definitely think he could go top 5. He's getting way too much traction with the Seattle Seahawks, which really surprises me. Who do you guys think the Seattle Seahawks should draft at number 5? Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson, Anthony Richardson? Should the Seattle Seahawks go make a move to try to get their quarterback? Should they build on defense? Should defensive line be a priority? What do you guys think? By the way, my favorite player in the draft right now, not named Will Anderson, Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. Where's he going to go? Guy has amazing film from his time at Oregon, was incredible at the combine. Christian Gonzalez could be the best cornerback in this draft. Where does he go? As a lot of these rumors swirl about the top 10, I haven't heard Christian Gonzalez's name at all. He might fall. A team that should absolutely look at him, New England Patriots at number 14. I don't think Geno Smith is the future. I think Geno Smith is a good 2-3 year solution, and that's one of the reasons if I'm the Seahawks, I at least have to kick the tires on Anthony Richardson. I don't think Will Levis is the right pick for them, but Anthony Richardson, learning under Geno Smith, getting 2 years to develop, understand how to take over the role, and then at the right time takes it over in, let's say, 2024, 2025. I think that would be an interesting move. I don't think that's where the Seahawks will go. I think they're going to go defense. I think they're going to go either Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, but something to consider for them. Make sure you guys are hitting that follow button, and that way you know every time we go live. We will be live for the entire first round of the draft tonight, so make sure you join us. Continuing to look at some of these draft betting odds behind me, or above me rather, looking at the top 10 picks. There you see Christian Gonzalez. I just mentioned him. I'm really big on him. Will he go in the top 10? The betting odds say there's an opportunity for him to go. I'm not so sure. I think some of these trades could ultimately push him outside the top 10. I'd love to see the Patriots grab him at number 14, but if he doesn't go there, certainly other teams that could consider him. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that follow button. Continue to look. Okay, so a couple players I want to call out. Love Nolan Smith. Don't think he's going to go in the top 10. Think it would be a bit of a reach. I don't think it's a reach, but I don't see teams drafting him that early. I think Tyree Wilson is going to be the player they take instead of him. Love Darnell Wright. Don't see him going in the top 10, but he could be the second offensive lineman taken. It's either Skoronski or Darnell Wright. I think Paris Johnson Jr. will go first, but Darnell Wright, keep your eye on him. Jackson Smith and Jigba, don't think he's a top 10er. Could easily see him going 13 to the Packers. Packers have some options at 13. Wide receiver, tight end, both make a lot of sense. If I'm the Packers, I actually would consider maybe trading back. That way you can get additional draft capital. You could still get your wide receiver or tight end a few picks later. Do I think the Raiders will draft a tight end or draft a quarterback? I actually don't think they will. I think they will go with an offensive lineman. That's what I think they should do. So I'll say that's what they will do unless Mark Davis pulls a crazy one. I think Anthony Richardson would be the only quarterback I could really see them taking. Will Levis seems like a bit of a reach because Will Levis feels like he should be a starter, if not this year, late this season, maybe early next season. Anthony Richardson, a bit more time. I think with Jimmy Garoppolo under center, unless he gets hurt, which he obviously will, I don't think Will Levis is the right pick. Make sure you hit that follow button. But Fumble Sports is going to be live for the entire first round of the draft tonight. Looking at, again, some of these draft betting prop bets, you can see the top 3 overall. Those odds have been taken off the board now that we know that Bryce Young will be the first overall pick taken. So Bovada didn't want to get taken. First cornerback selected, Devin Witherspoon, I definitely think is the reason for the favorite. It makes a lot of sense. We talked about the Raiders. Devin Witherspoon going there makes a lot of sense. If I'm the Eagles, I would also consider it. I know the Eagles love to build in the trenches, but Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, both are studs. Both are going to go around that number 10, 11, 12 pick. If either one of them falls, look for the New England Patriots. The Patriots don't have a true number 1 corner anymore, not like a J.C. Jackson or a Stephon Gilmore. Bill Belichick is known for having that lockdown, shutdown corner. Devin Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez would make a lot of sense here. I love Joey Porter Jr., but I feel like he could fall a little bit in this draft because defensive players, they're plentiful. I think the offensive talent, there could be a run on wide receiver. There could be a run on offensive linemen. If there's a run on offensive linemen, Joey Porter Jr. could fall. That could be a great thing for a couple teams that are drafting early in the 20s. Make sure you hit that follow button. But Fumble Sports is going to be live for the entire first round. And if you love getting our content and our reactions, make sure you hit the link in our bio. It takes you right to our website, butfumblesports.com. You can check out all of our content. Here's a look at our website right here, butfumblesports.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. Okay, let's get back to these betting odds. That's the first cornerback selected. First defensive player selected. Obviously, Will Anderson has been the one a lot of people have been talking about. But if you wanted to take a risk right here, Tyree Wilson would be the pick. I think Will Anderson will go first, but there's been a lot of rumors about the Seattle Seahawks really liking Tyree Wilson. This is how Will Anderson could ultimately not be the number 1. Bryce Young goes number 1. Let's say Will Levis or Stroud goes number 2. You could see the Titans trade up to number 3 to get the number 3 overall pick. That is then a quarterback. The Colts take number 4, take a quarterback at number 4, and all of a sudden the Seahawks are at number 5 with Anderson, Wilson, and Carter all available. Yeah, I think they take Anderson, but Tyree Wilson's still available and a lot of rumors about him. Who's the best wide receiver in this draft? Hey, it's Jackson Smith-Njigba. I don't think this is a really talented wide receiver draft. A lot of people have been trying to sell me on that, saying it's deeper than it really is. I think it's not as talented at the top. I don't think it's as deep as some people make it out to be. I really like Zay Flowers, but who's the best wide receiver? It's Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I'd probably make Zay Flowers number 2. Continuing to look at some of these picks right here. Again, looking at the first linebacker selected, not a bet I care about. This is a terrible linebacker draft. It's good on edge rushers. It's bad at linebackers, tackling linebackers. Not a deep position in this draft. Definitely not a prop bet that I'm looking at. So Adam Schefter just giving some word about Lamar Jackson signing that deal with the Baltimore Ravens. That's obviously been big news. There are going to be a lot of trades that go down tonight. There are talks about Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Hopkins, a number of other players. Make sure you're following us and staying with us as we're live for the entire first round of the draft. First offensive lineman selected, Paris Johnson Jr. This is an easy bet. I wouldn't want to put down the 550, but this is an easy bet for me. Love what I could get here. Paris Johnson Jr. is the play. First running back selected, you can see right there in the odds. Minus 10,000, Bijan Robinson. He'll be the number 1 running back taken overall. No questions about it. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and on YouTube. We're going to be broadcasting here on TikTok Live for the entire first round of the draft. We're also on YouTube right now, so if you like watching us on our YouTube channel, But Fumble Sports is where to go. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. Okay, this is one of my favorite places to look for a bet. First tight end selected, Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, Darnell Washington. These 3 guys are studs. This tight end class is really deep. It's loaded, but those top 3 guys are absolute studs. Darnell Washington doesn't belong in the conversation, but Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid. I actually think that Dalton Kincaid's going to be the one that goes first. I like him going to the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers either go Jackson Smith-Njigba or they go Dalton Kincaid. I love Dalton Kincaid. I think he could go first as a tight end to the Packers. I think Michael Mayer could go later, closer to the 20s. Keep your eye on the Dallas Cowboys going after a tight end. Appreciate all of you guys joining us and for following us. We're going to be live for the first round of the draft, so make sure you're with us tonight. First wide receiver selected. Jackson Smith-Njigba is an obvious play. Zay Flowers, don't think he's going to leapfrog Jackson Smith-Njigba, but definitely think he could be number 2. Keep your eye on Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison could be a surprise pick by a team late in the 20s, maybe in the early 30s, 30, 31. Could definitely see him going. Look out for the Kansas City Chiefs. Always look out for the Chiefs adding to the talent that they could have at wide receiver. Number 2 cornerback selected, Christian Gonzalez. Unless you think somehow Devin Witherspoon isn't going to be number 1, Christian Gonzalez, number 2 is a pretty safe bet. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us, Fumble Sports. We're going through every pick of the NFL draft tonight, so you want to get our reactions, you know where to be. TikTok Live tonight. What time does the draft start? The draft opens at 8 o'clock. So the commissioner will go up on the stage at 8 and will do his whole spiel. We'll get booed. We'll tell everybody, okay, the draft is officially open. 8 o'clock is when the draft starts. How quickly it takes for that first pick to come in, we will see. It's clearly going to be Bryce Young. There are no doubts about it. Bryce Young's going to be the first pick taken in tonight's draft. And then it gets wild, everybody. If you like unpredictability, tonight's NFL draft is for you. We have no idea what's going to go down tonight, but whatever happens, it's going to be wild. I think there are going to be a number of trades. I could see 4 or 5 trades tonight. Definitely think there's going to be movement in the top 10 as well. Make sure you're following us, Fumble Sports. Hit that follow button, and of course, hit that like button as well. Clearly, some Seahawks fans are hoping that they stay away from Anthony Richardson. For your sake, I agree with you. Go get that defensive player. Go get a Jalen Carter. Go get a Tyree Wilson. Go get someone who's going to continue to add to that defense. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. If you guys got questions, if you've got takes, make sure you throw them in the chat. Who's going to fall to the Saints? Really interesting. Look for some pass rushers. Let's take a look at some of the guys who I think could go to the Saints. Look at Brian Breesy could fall to the Saints. I don't think Lucas Van Ness will fall necessarily, but Will McDonald. Look for some defensive players. If they have the opportunity to take offensive linemen, Broderick Jones is another one that they should consider. I think there's going to be a run on offensive linemen, so they may be getting the 4th or 5th best offensive lineman. They may not feel great about that. Might be a better pass rusher to go get. But for a number of reasons, I think they need to look at offensive line and pass rusher. Again, Brian Breesy is someone I have my eye on. Will McDonald, someone I have my eye on. If they can get an offensive lineman who could fall, a good one, maybe someone to consider. I'm looking for, there are ways you can see is the teams. Here we go. Curious to know if I can get the Saints up here. Saints. Boom. Okay, here you go. Just as I said, defensive lineman, edge rusher is the favorite. Offensive lineman is number 2. For a number of reasons, I think that's right. So for the Saints, if I'm them, I'm looking for who's going to fall. Why do you think Stetson Bennett is not projected to go in the first round? Because he's not that talented. Stetson Bennett is not that talented a quarterback. It's great that you won national championships in college. It is 2 different sports. The NFL and college football, when it comes to the quarterback position, isn't always the same. So great that Stetson Bennett was talented. I'm sure he's going to make a great summer camp counselor for Georgia football camps. But for a number of reasons, Stetson Bennett doesn't belong in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th round of this draft. I don't think he's talented enough. Nothing against him. I just don't think he has the physical ability to play in the NFL at the level that someone who drafts him in the first 5 rounds would need him. I think he really is going to be a backup guy. I think he's going to be a permanent, bulletin board holder. Or clipboard holder, rather. So, Stetson Bennett, sorry about it. You got 2 national championship rings. What do you have to be upset about? You're a hero in the state of Georgia. So I just don't think the NFL draft is going to be your event. I feel strongly about that. By the way, I haven't heard anything about Stetson Bennett, by the way. I haven't heard any rumors about him. I haven't heard anyone saying like, "Oh, Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett's a guy you got to keep an eye out on." I haven't heard anyone talk about Stetson Bennett as a legit first 5-round pick. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us, Fumble Sports. If you've got questions about the NFL draft, what your team should do, what are some of the bets to make, here for all of it. Okay, do I like the UCLA quarterback? Okay, that's Dorian, whatever his name is. The answer is not really. It's interesting because I was thinking about this earlier. Dorian Thompson Robinson. It's interesting because when he was with Chip Kelly at UCLA, for about a 3-week period of time last summer, people were trying to talk me into getting excited about him. I never did. UCLA just didn't do enough. He didn't do enough for a number of reasons. I think that Dorian Thompson Robinson is going to be someone who's drafted and becomes a backup for a couple years, but I don't think he's going to see the field. I don't think he's going to do much. Harsh, I know. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us, Fumble Sports, on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We are going to be live for another 10 minutes or so. Then I'm going to take about a half-hour break, and then we will be back up live for the first round of the NFL draft. I'm going to be live for the entire first round. I'm going to watch it on TV with you guys, so I'll be reacting to everything that you guys are. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Going to have a lot of fun talking NFL draft. Appreciate all of you guys who just followed us. Make sure that you're following us. That way you know every time we go live. And while we are live for the draft tonight, we are going to be going live almost every single day, giving out betting and opportunities to bet on some of these, on baseball, NBA, other sports. So always join Fumble Sports. Okay. No. Brutal. UCLA fans are not happy, but not as sad as Stetson Bennett take. Yeah, the Stetson Bennett take, I know there are some Georgia fans who probably just clicked out of the live, but I think Stetson Bennett is a perfect college football quarterback. He knows his role, he does what the coach tells him, but he's not physically gifted or talented enough to compete and contend in an NFL that you just see the size and the speed. Stetson Bennett does not belong on an NFL field. He belongs on a sideline next to a coach holding a clipboard. Who do you guys think is going to be the first player taken after Bryce Young? We know Bryce Young's going to go number 1. Who's going to be the number 2 pick taken overall? I also want to throw up some of these over-unders on players and where they could go. There's so many bets out there. Like Dalton Kincaid, over-under 24.5. I like the under here. That's a perfect example. Great bet to be had. Yeah, shots fired at Stetson Bennett. If he wants to come at me, he knows where I'm at. Broderick Jones, this is an interesting one. I'm surprised he's as high as 14.5 here. I feel like the over is definitely a good play. Will Anderson's a stud. Would love to see him taken at number 2, but I feel like there is going to be a quarterback. I think the Houston Texans have been putting out the idea that they're going to draft a defensive player for a little while now to try to get people to buy into it. But the reality is, I think they were taking a quarterback unless they could get a trade that was worth it. I think it's going to be Will Levis. I think the Houston Texans are going to surprise a lot of people. And one of the reasons I think they're going to take Will Levis is because I think they have the pressure from the rest of their division. The Colts, the Titans, both teams trying to make moves. Who do I think the Seahawks will take at 20? Offensive lineman if it's available. If I'm the Seahawks, I go after my defense in the first pick. I go after the offensive line in the second pick. Speaking of players to consider, we just looked at him. Broderick Jones at 20. Broderick Jones at 20 would make a lot of sense. Osiris Torrance out of Florida at 20 might be a bit of a reach at 20, but given how good he'll be as an offensive guard, really love that pick. So I would go defensive line with the first pick if I'm the Seahawks. I'd go offensive line if I'm the second pick. If I'm the Eagles at number 10, Eagles at number 10 is interesting to me because the Eagles could go in 2 different directions here. One, Lane Johnson, how much longer is he going to hold up? So you could go get a right tackle. You could go look at Paris Johnson Jr. if he's there. You could look at Darnell Wright if he's there. Howie Roseman likes to build on the interior of the offense. It likes to build offensive linemen out. So if you go offensive line and get a right tackle, makes a lot of sense to me. You're getting a security play with Lane Johnson kind of getting towards the back end of his career. As for what the Eagles probably will do, it's defensive line. I think that they have a tendency to go get pass rushers. I think that's where it makes sense for me. Why do so many mock drafts have the Seahawks taking Richardson? Because I think the Seahawks have let it be known that Geno Smith isn't a permanent solution. They signed him to the extension, what is it, 3 years? But it's intended for him to be the short-term solution, but for him to be someone to tutor someone behind him. I actually think the Seahawks may not take a quarterback at 5, but may take a quarterback in the second round. Hendon Hooker in the second round, if he falls to the second round, would make a lot of sense going to the Seahawks. Hooker coming off an injury would have time to recover, learn under Geno Smith. Geno Smith is the number 1 quarterback for 2023. Makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, Wilson at 6. I like it. I like it if I'm the Lions, but I don't think that's where the Lions will go. I think the Lions should address their secondary. If Jalen Carter is there at 6, to me it's a no-brainer. Let me throw up the top 10 just so everyone knows what we're talking about here. So the Lions at number 6, I know Tyree Wilson is there, but I don't like Tyree Wilson nearly as much as I like Jalen Carter. For the Lions, the Lions could use a defensive tackle to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. I also think that going after our cornerback wouldn't be terrible. If you want to reach for Christian Gonzalez, I wouldn't hate on it, Devin Witherspoon. But if I'm the Lions, defense. You don't need to get more weapons. You don't need to add to your offensive line. You need to get better in the trenches on defense. You need to get better in the secondary on defense. So if I'm the Lions, number 6 overall pick has to be a defensive player, no doubt about it. By the way, for all of those who are going to be staying up late, much like myself, watching the NFL draft, much like myself, make sure you drink 5-Hour Energy. Can we get it on the screen? There it is. Comes in and out, but I'm not a coffee drinker, so 5-Hour Energy is definitely what I go to for my late nights when I like to stay up to watch my games, whether I'm betting, the NFL draft. I'm on the East Coast. I watch a lot of West Coast games, so 5-Hour Energy is definitely what I go for. There, you can see it right here. So 5-Hour Energy is definitely the drink for my NFL draft tonight. Did the D-Hop trade go through yet? I haven't seen any confirmation yet. Still waiting to hear. For all of those who are wondering, there's rumors that DeAndre Hopkins and the number 3 overall pick are going to be traded from Arizona to the Tennessee Titans. The Titans trading the 11th overall pick, and I'm sure a bunch else, but really interested to see. No, I think 5-Hour Energy actually tastes good. I don't know why some people say otherwise. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I think coffee tastes funny. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you're following Butt Fumble Sports. We're going to be live for the entire first round of the NFL Draft tonight. I've got the screen on in front of me. I've got my camera on, so I am ready to go. Got my 2 laptops, so I'm going to be ready for this entire draft. Make sure you're with us for the entire first round. We're going to be breaking down every single pick, reacting to everything that goes on. And again, it's not just draft picks. There are a lot of trades that are rumored out there. Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Hopkins, Jonah Williams. There are a lot of players that could be moved tonight, and not just players in the draft. So tonight is definitely Christmas for football fans. Buckle up, settle in. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're ready for it. So I put out a rant video earlier about Lamar Jackson and him signing with the Ravens. I said it was a good move for both sides on the short term. Long term, I don't think Lamar Jackson ever wins the Super Bowl. And boy, did I get some hate. Those on Twitter certainly took a dump on my head and thought I was stupid, told me to shut the hell up. But that said, I think Lamar Jackson is a good PR move for the Ravens. I think he's a perfect fit for Baltimore, a perfect fit for the Ravens. They can market him, they can sell him. But can Lamar Jackson stay healthy and win them a Super Bowl? I don't think so. I think Lamar Jackson is a primetime player. I think he's a marketable player. I think he's the face of the franchise. I don't think he will ever win a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback. For those wondering what time the draft starts, it starts at 8 o'clock tonight. That is when the commissioner will get up on the stage and say the draft is officially open. The first pick may take anywhere from 5, 10. You have 15 minutes on the clock, but the whole point is the draft starts at 8 o'clock. Yeah, I'm with you, Jose. I don't see Lamar Jackson winning a Super Bowl ring. I think he's incredibly talented, but again, it's the vulnerability of him getting hurt. I just don't think he can stay healthy. Player to get picked outside of Bryce Young being drafted by the Carolina Panthers. I think Peter Skoronski to the Bears is a perfect fit. He is from Illinois. He went to Northwestern. They need offensive line help to protect Justin Fields. His grandfather played in the NFL, so he's got that DNA, that pedigree. Peter Skoronski to the Bears, to me, is the best fit. The only other one that would feel like a best fit for me, you're asking about best bet, which is a little bit different. Best fit is what I'm speaking to, but Skoronski to the Bears, I think, is both. Best fit, Nolan Smith to the Ravens would be a best fit. I don't think it's going to happen, so not a best bet, though. How good do I think the Seahawks will be next year? This draft tonight's going to really contribute to that, because I think the Seahawks are in danger of taking a step back. They were a surprise team last year. Can they keep up the momentum? The thing that the Seahawks have in their favor is the NFC got much weaker over the offseason with Rodgers and other moves. But that said, I think the Seahawks need to get better offensively. Offensive line could get better, and their defense continues to need to get better. If the Seahawks win the draft this year like they did last year, they're going to be a wild card team. Otherwise, I could see them being on the fringes and missing the playoffs. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that follow button, Butt Fumble Sports. Make sure you're following us. We're going to be live for every pick of the NFL draft tonight. Also throwing up some of the betting odds that we're looking at. This is over-under on some of the draft positions. Brian Breesy, over-under 29.5. They're saying over. I mentioned earlier about the Saints. I thought that he was someone that the Saints could ultimately get. So the Saints fans, if you're thinking about who could end up on your squad later tonight, Brian Breesy is one of the guys to think about. Deonte Banks is a player I'm really big on. Loved him at Maryland this past season. Liked what I saw out of him at the Combine. Keep your eyes on Deonte Banks. Do think he's going to fall a bit past this position. Don't think he's going to be at 20. Think it's going to be closer to 24 to 27. How much do you see Walker and Woolen growing this season? I think Woolen's going to take a big step forward. Kenneth Walker, the second, I'm not so sure. I am a bit worried about running backs in their second season. The mystery's a bit out. Yes, they're better conditioned for the year, but teams are aware of their talent. I think Kenneth Walker III surprised some opposing defenses last year in the first 6-7 weeks. You didn't see that the back half of the season. I think defenses are going to be more prepared for him. One of the reasons why the Seahawks may want to consider offensive line with that second pick of the first round, that 20th overall pick. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us, Butt Fumble Sports, here on TikTok and on YouTube. Appreciate all of you joining us. There you see Hendon Hooker's odds for whether he'll go over or under. Again, the first round tonight only has 31 picks. For all of those who may be confused, only 31 picks tonight because the Miami Dolphins forfeited their pick as a result of tampering. They were trying to get Tom Brady to sign with them. That came out. What's really interesting about that, it actually was all started by Bill Belichick congratulating Brian Flores on getting the Giants job when it was actually Brian Daboll. That started an investigation as to whether Brian Flores was being sandbagged or was getting opportunities. That then fell back on the Dolphins. A lot of things came out. Ultimately, Tom Brady retires. Dolphins lose their first overall pick. So 31 picks in tonight's first round. 31 picks. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us, Butt Fumble Sports. We are live for the NFL first round of the draft. Going to be alive for about another 5 minutes of this pregame show, or I should say pre-draft show, and then I'm going to stop down, collect myself, go to the bathroom, do what I need to, and then we will be live for the first round of the NFL draft. I'll come back on probably about 7:55. We'll get back on live, and then we will be watching the NFL draft together. I'm going to be live for the entire first round of the draft, reacting. I'm going to throw the picks up above me, so if you miss any of the picks, you'll know who goes where, but we're going to react to everything that goes on tonight. Should be an unbelievable night of exciting NFL Christmas-like action. NFL teams opening up their presents and seeing who they get under their draft Christmas tree. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that follow button. I'll say it one more time. We're going to stop down in a minute. We're going to go off the air. I will be back on at 7:55, so I'll be back on in about a half hour. We will be live for the entire first round of the draft here on TikTok Live. So make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you're with us for every pick tonight. I will be live for the entire first round tonight. So if you want to join me, get my reactions, chat through the chat, and talk about what goes down tonight, make sure you hit that follow button. That way you know when we're live. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? Anybody out there have any predictions